Remember your dad's metal lunchbox? That beat-up thing with the dents and scratches? The one he carried every single day? It wasn't just a box. Inside was something that told a whole story about your family, about how the week was going, about things nobody said out loud. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to show you what was really inside those lunchboxes, and why opening one was like reading a letter from home. But first, you need to understand the morning ritual, because it started before dawn, in kitchens all across America. By 1985, this was all gone. The lunchbox, the wax paper, the thermos, all of it, replaced by vending machines and microwaves. Back in 1974, you didn't buy lunch. You didn't have a cafeteria with 15 options. You brought what your wife packed, in that metal box, and you ate it at noon, sitting on a bench or a crate with the guys from your shift. And what she packed that morning? That told you everything about whether it was a good week or a tight one. We'll get to that. But first, let me take you back to 5:30 a.m. 5:30 in the morning, still dark outside. The house is quiet, but in the kitchen, there's movement. A woman is awake. Your mother, your wife, your grandmother, making lunch for the man who's about to leave for the factory. I bet you remember that sound, don't you? The refrigerator door opening, the bread bag rustling, the coffee percolating on the stove. Those sounds meant someone was taking care of you. This wasn't just making lunch. This was an act of love, of partnership. She knew exactly what he needed to get through an 8-hour shift, maybe 10 hours if there was overtime. And the way she packed that lunchbox, it followed rules. Unwritten rules that every factory wife knew. Rules that determined whether a man had energy at 2 p.m. or ran out of steam. So what went in first? The sandwich. Always the sandwich. 2 slices of white bread. Wonder bread, probably. Sometimes wheat if she was watching the budget, because wheat was a few cents cheaper that week. Now, people today talk about artisan bread and organic ingredients. Back then, bread was bread, and what went between those slices told you how the family was doing. Good week? Bologna. Maybe ham. Possibly, if it was payday week, roast beef from Sunday's dinner. Tight week? Peanut butter and jelly, or butter and sugar. Maybe just butter. And she'd wrap it carefully, in wax paper, folded just right so it wouldn't come apart. Because a man's lunch falling apart at noon? That was embarrassing. Small thing, but it mattered. You ever open a sandwich at lunch and find a note tucked inside? A piece of paper torn from the grocery list? Love you, or don't forget milk, or just a smiley face? Some men kept those notes, folded them up and put them in their wallets, never told anyone, but they kept them. But there was something else that went in that lunchbox, something I haven't told you yet, something that mattered more than the sandwich. Hold on to that thought. The thermos. Now this is important, because the thermos wasn't just about coffee, it was about survival. Factory work in 1974 was brutal, hot in summer, cold in winter, loud all the time, physical, exhausting. By 10 a.m., you'd already been on your feet for 4 hours. That thermos, that was your lifeline. Maybe your dad had the same one for 20 years, dented, the paint worn off, but he never replaced it, because it worked, and because replacing it felt wasteful when it still held coffee. And the coffee inside was strong, real strong. Not fancy, not flavored, just black coffee from the percolator, made at 5 a.m., still hot at 10 a.m. if the thermos was good. Now here's what happened at 10 a.m. every single day. The whole factory knew it. Even the foreman expected it. The break whistle. 15 minutes. And every man would find his spot, his bench, his corner, his crate. The same spot every day for years. That's where you sat. That's where your crew gathered. You'd unscrew that thermos cap, pour coffee into the cup that doubled as a lid. Steam rising. The smell cutting through the factory air. Metal and oil and sawdust, and then coffee. For 15 minutes, you weren't a machine operator or a welder or a line worker. You were just a man drinking coffee with other men who understood exactly what your day felt like. Nobody talked much during that break. Maybe someone mentioned the Tigers game. Maybe someone complained about the heat. But mostly you just drank your coffee and gave your body a few minutes to recover. That thermos of coffee got you to lunch. And at lunch, there'd be more. Enough to get you through to 3 p.m. And if you were working a double, your wife packed extra. She knew. But here's something most people don't realize. That thermos wasn't just for coffee. Some guys brought soup in winter. Some brought iced tea in summer. Some brought milk. And some, now this is the part that stayed with people, some brought nothing. Empty thermos. Because there was no coffee that week. Because money was that tight. Those guys would sit there during break, thermos in hand but not opening it, pretending. Because admitting you had nothing, that was harder than just going without. The crew knew. They always knew. And somebody would pour a little extra. Here, try mine. Wife made it too strong again. Little lie, big kindness. That's what working-class solidarity looked like. Not speeches, not politics. Just sharing coffee when someone needed it. So you've got your sandwich. You've got your thermos. What else was in there? An apple, maybe, if it was apple season and they were cheap. Or a banana, something you could eat in 3 bites and throw the core in the trash barrel. Sometimes a cookie, homemade if she'd had time to bake, store-bought if she hadn't, Oreos, Fig Newtons, something sweet to look forward to after the sandwich. Sometimes a hard-boiled egg, salt shaker from home wrapped in a paper towel, egg and salt, simple, but it filled you up. And sometimes, on paydays or birthdays or when she was feeling generous, a piece of leftover pie, cherry pie, apple pie, wrapped carefully so it wouldn't get crushed. That was a good day when you opened your lunchbox and saw pie. But here's what you need to understand. The contents of that lunchbox were calculated down to the penny. She knew exactly what everything cost. She knew what was in the pantry. She knew what bills were due that week. If it was the week before payday and money was tight, the lunchbox got simpler. Peanut butter sandwich, maybe a piece of fruit, no cookie. Black coffee, no sugar because sugar cost money. If it was right after payday and the paycheck was good, the lunchbox got better. Better sandwich, fruit, cookie, maybe even a Twinkie or a Hostess cupcake from the corner store. That lunchbox was a barometer, a daily report on the family's financial situation. And every man who opened his lunchbox at noon knew exactly what it meant. Good lunchbox? Things are okay. Wife's not worried, bills are covered. Thin lunchbox? Money's tight. Be careful, no unnecessary spending this week. No lunchbox at all? That meant something bad. Something really bad. Maybe a layoff notice. Maybe an emergency. Maybe the car broke down and the repair took everything. And other men would notice. They wouldn't say anything, but they'd notice. And that guy would find an extra sandwich on his bench. Or someone would accidentally pack too much and need help finishing it. Nobody made a big deal. Nobody embarrassed anyone. They just helped. Noon whistle. Lunch break. 30 minutes. Sometimes 45 if the union was strong. You'd clock out, wash your hands at the big industrial sink. Factory soap that didn't really clean, just moved the grease around. Dry them on your pants because the paper towel dispenser was always empty. Then you'd head to your spot. Every factory had them. The break room, if there was one, the loading dock, the area behind the building where there was a bench. Wherever it was, that was your spot. And you'd sit, open your lunchbox, see what you packed. If you grew up in that era, you remember the sound, that metal clasp opening, that specific click. That sound meant a break from the work, a few minutes of peace, and you'd unwrap the sandwich, wax paper crinkling. Maybe it had gotten a little warm. Maybe the mustard had soaked through the bread a bit. Didn't matter. You were hungry. You'd been working for 6 hours. First bite. Every time. That first bite tasted better than it should have. Because it wasn't just food. It was home. It was the hands that made it. It was the thought behind it. You know what I mean, don't you? That taste of a sandwich someone made for you before dawn. Someone who knew you'd be tired and hungry and needed something to keep going. That taste was different than any other sandwich. The guys around you were doing the same thing, unwrapping their lunches, pouring their coffee.
Somebody might share something. Got extra cookies today? Somebody else might trade. I'll give you my apple for your chips. Small economy, small kindness, working class communion. And for those 30 minutes, the factory wasn't running. The machines were quiet. Your body could rest. Your ears could recover from the noise. Your hands could stop gripping tools. You'd eat your sandwich, drink your coffee, maybe read the newspaper someone brought, maybe just stare at nothing. Those 30 minutes were yours. And then, the whistle. Time to go back. You'd close your empty lunchbox, throw away the wax paper and the apple core, screw the cap back on the thermos, clock back in, back to the machines, back to the noise, back to the work. But for 30 minutes, you'd had a break. You'd had food. You'd had something from home in the middle of the day. And that made the afternoon bearable. Now let me tell you what nobody talks about. The lunchbox was communication. When words were hard, and they usually were, the lunchbox spoke. It said, "I know you're working hard." It said, "I'm thinking about you." It said, "We're in this together." A good lunchbox meant, things are okay, I'm okay, we're okay. A great lunchbox, extra food, special treats, meant, I love you, or thank you, or I'm proud of you. A thin lunchbox meant, money's tight, but we'll make it. And no lunchbox? That meant, come home, we need to talk. This was a language, unspoken, understood by everyone who lived it. The factory wife knew how to pack a message into that metal box. The factory worker knew how to read it. And here's something that might surprise you. Men noticed each other's lunchboxes, not in a nosy way, but in a watching out way. If a guy's lunchbox suddenly got thinner, people noticed. If a guy who always had a good lunch showed up with nothing, people noticed. And they'd help, quietly, without making it a thing, because tomorrow, it might be you. Tomorrow, your family might be the one struggling, and you'd want someone to notice, someone to care. That's what community meant in factory towns, looking out for each other, sharing when you could, understanding when you couldn't. The lunchbox was also pride. A man whose wife packed him a good lunch felt provided for, felt taken care of, felt valued. That's not nothing. When your work is hard and your body hurts and the days are long, knowing someone cares enough to make you lunch, that matters. And for the wives, that lunchbox was their contribution. They couldn't work in the factory. Most places wouldn't hire women for factory jobs in 1974. But they could make sure their husband had food, had energy, had something to look forward to at noon. That was partnership. Different than today, but real, solid. Two people working together to keep the family going. By the mid-'80s, things started changing. Cafeterias appeared in some factories, vending machines, microwaves, and break rooms. Men started buying lunch. A burger from the truck that parked outside at noon, a sandwich from the corner store, hot food from the cafeteria line. It was easier in some ways. You didn't have to plan ahead, didn't have to make anything the night before. You just bought whatever you wanted. But something got lost. The lunchbox disappeared. The morning ritual ended. The communication stopped. The connection between home and work broke. Buying lunch was convenient, but it was also lonely. It was a transaction. Money for food, nothing more. The homemade sandwich wrapped in wax paper, that was a gift. Every single day. A gift you could hold. And the metal lunchbox itself? Those started disappearing too. Replaced by plastic. Replaced by paper bags. Replaced by nothing. Because you didn't need one anymore. Today, if you find one of those old metal lunchboxes, beat up, dented, rusty, it's just an artifact, a vintage item. Something people put on shelves or sell at antique stores. But if you carried one, if you opened one every day at noon, it's more than that. It's a memory of a time when lunch meant something, when someone cared enough to wake up early and make it for you, when what you ate told you how your family was doing. Those were different times,
harder in many ways. But there was something honest about that metal lunchbox, something real, something that can't be bought at a vending machine. If you remember those metal lunchboxes, you know what I'm talking about. You know what it felt like to open one. You know what it meant. And if you were the one packing them, early mornings in a quiet kitchen, making sandwiches, filling thermoses, folding wax paper just right, that was love. Daily love. The kind nobody noticed until it was gone. Life was tougher then, no question. But some things were simpler, more direct. A sandwich was never just a sandwich. A thermos was never just coffee. A lunchbox was never just a box. They were connection. They were care. They were the daily proof that someone was thinking about you, that someone wanted you to make it through the day, that you weren't alone. And maybe that's what we miss most. Not the lunchbox itself, but what it represented. The ritual, the routine, the quiet ways people showed they cared. Some things you just don't get back. If you remember those lunchboxes, I'd love to hear about them. What did your mom pack? What did your wife make? What did it mean to you? Sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest memories.